Welcome back to Birds of a Feather. This is your daily Baltimore sports podcast. My name is Nathan Stroud, and today we're going to be recapping the Orioles and Boston Red Sox game that just ended a couple of hours ago. The reason why I'm recording this right now is because I was going to wait until tonight to talk about both of the doubleheader games, but the second game of the doubleheader did just get postponed about 10 minutes ago. So there will be a doubleheader tomorrow. There was supposed to be a doubleheader today. We played the first game, didn't play the second game because the second game got moved to tomorrow, so there's going to be a doubleheader tomorrow. So a very interesting schedule for the Orioles, obviously with two games getting postponed, having to play all these doubleheaders, or supposed to be doubleheaders. So it's a very weird schedule for the O's. But the Orioles did play a game today. It was this morning. Not really sure that the bullpen showed up to this game, but the Orioles did play a game today where they lost 19-5. It's at this point this is happening a lot more often than you would want. It's kind of a common Orioles game stat line at the end of the day. The Orioles lose 19-5. This game was a complete disaster when we got to the 8th inning. Everything was pretty normal and chill for the first 6-7 innings of the game. Everything was pretty chill. There was nothing really going wrong. I know when you hear us losing 19-5, it's kind of hard to believe that we were actually winning 2-1 in the 6th inning of this game. So the Orioles were winning for most of this game, and it was an absolute disaster when it got to the 8th inning. They kind of just blew the doors off, literally, of everything going on. And we're going to be recapping this game. There was a ton of stuff that happened, a lot of negative things that happened as well, but some positive things happened early on. There's still some good things to talk about in this game regarding, Cade Povich and regarding the offense early on. But the bullpen completely was an absolute disaster today. I haven't seen a bullpen collapse this unbelievably bad in a long time. When the Orioles lost 24-2 earlier this season, Charlie Morton gave up, I think, 7 or 8 runs that game. So we were kind of cooked from the start, so it did make sense. And we also used 2 position players, so it made sense that we gave up all those runs. But this game was within reach, and the bullpen literally threw this game out the window and drove over it 100 times with a pickup truck. So an absolute disastrous game for the Orioles today. We're going to be recapping this game and more. So going over this Orioles game that ended a couple of hours ago, obviously the Orioles lose 19-5, and the Orioles now move to 16-33 on the season. For their season record, we're back to being 17 games below 500. All of a sudden, when things were looking good after their big extra inning win against the Brewers, things started to look up for this team, and all of a sudden, it just all went crashing down again. Going over the offense, Jackson Holliday was leading off again for the 6th straight game. I think Jackson has kind of solidified himself as the leadoff guy, which I'm fine with. I like Jackson Holliday at leadoff. I think he should stay there. I even said earlier this season that Jackson Holliday should be, I said by the, earlier in this podcast, earlier in the season, I said by the end of the year I would love to see Jackson Holliday, solidify himself as a leadoff guy. And even if he didn't, it would have still been okay. But Jackson Holliday was always looked at as the leadoff guy of this team. And he's doing very well at leadoff. He was 2 for 5 today with 2 RBIs. He drove in 2 of the 5 runs we ended up scoring today. Obviously a multi-hit game. There was actually 5 different Orioles that had multi-hit games today because the Orioles hits weren't the problem. Obviously we put up 14 total hits in this game compared to the Red Sox 20, and we only scored 5 runs off of it. 6 for 15 with runners in scoring position compared to the Red Sox 10 for 19. Obviously a majority of those hits and runs were from the 8th inning. The 8th inning absolute just disaster class that was that 8th inning. But the Orioles with a very interesting game to talk about today. Again, Jackson Holliday multi-hit game. Adley Rutschman goes 1 for 4 with an RBI. Gunnar Henderson has a multi-hit game, goes 2 for 4. Ryan Mountcastle goes 1 for 3 with an RBI. Ryan O'Hearn goes 3 for 5, continues to be arguably the best pure hitter on this team. He's been fantastic all season. Ryan O'Hearn, Ramon Urias goes 2 for 5 with an RBI. Cedric Mullins goes 0 for 5 with 3 strikeouts. Not a good game from Ced. And then Heston Kjerstad goes 1 for 4, and he also had a very big home run robbery in this game. It was actually really cool to see him get that home run. I think the robbery was in the second or third inning of this game, so you kind of felt like the momentum was on this side. And I literally went and tweeted out on my Birds of a Feather account. I literally said the tides might be shifting with this team all of a sudden because of the cool plays that they're making in this game. Obviously, the win last week, and they were up 2-0 in this game in the going into the fourth inning. So things were starting to really move for this Orioles team. Things were looking good. And Jorge Mateo goes 2 for 4 with 2 scored runs. So the offense today, 14 total hits, got walked 3 times, struck out 11 times, 6 for 15 with runners in scoring position. They left 11 guys on base. So obviously the offense didn't have an amazing day. They did fine. Obviously, they got on base a lot. A lot of that obviously was also from the 4 of those hits and 2 of those runs that we scored were from the position player that the Red Sox put in at the end of the game. But the Orioles offense overall did fine. You would have liked to maybe see them score some more runs early on, but there's no point of even talking about scoring more runs because we lost this game by 14 runs, so obviously it wouldn't have mattered. This game is completely 100% on the bullpen. There's literally no other person to blame than the bullpen because the starting pitching was fine. The offense was doing its thing for most of the game. And, this game just it got away from you, and it got away from you in the most horrific way possible. So going over to the pitching, because this is the big part about this game that we have to talk about. The Orioles in this game only used 5 total pitchers, really only 4 total actual pitchers, because we did put in Emmanuel Rivera as our position player late into the game, because we decided to punt the game, because obviously this wasn't going to be a doubleheader, so we didn't want to have to use too many pitchers in a doubleheader. So we kind of just punted the game when it was 11-3, we just kind of punted the game, put in Emmanuel Rivera, and then obviously it got worse from there. At that point, when Emmanuel Rivera came into the game, it was just comical at that point. So, but starting off with Cade Povich, who really played excellent today for the Orioles, and I don't want this horrible pitching performance from the bullpen to kind of shy away and take away from what Cade Povich did today. He did excellent. He got through 5 innings of ball, gave up 4 hits, 1 run, 3 walks, and had 6 strikeouts on a 98 pitch count. Obviously, we had to take him out the game because his pitch count was really high after 5 innings, but got through 5 innings, only gave up 7 total base, let up 7 total base runners, which isn't obviously spectacular, but it was solid. Obviously, only 1 run scored. Cade Povich only allowed 1 run, so he did his thing. I'm not mad at Cade Povich at all. This is actually one of the better games he's had this season, so it was really nice to see Cade Povich do well in this game. But where the problem of this game occurred was literally everybody else. Seranthony Dominguez, Gregory Soto, Cionel Perez, and Emmanuel Rivera. Obviously, I'm not going to sit here and blame Emmanuel Rivera. He's a position player. He is a third baseman. He's not someone that's supposed to go out there and pitch. So I'm really looking at Seranthony Dominguez, Gregory Soto, and Cionel Perez. The Emmanuel Rivera thing is just comical. It's laughable. Obviously when the opposing team sees a position player in the game, their eyes glow, and their eyes are just pop up and they're wide open because they see a position player and they say, okay, we're about to go out and put up 10 runs on this guy, which they did put up 8 runs on Emmanuel Rivera today. So obviously when another team is playing a position player, they love to obviously face them because it boosts their stats, which it did today, especially for Rafael Devers, who had 8 RBIs today and had a 4-hit game and 2 home run games. So obviously he did excellent. But going over the pitching, Seranthony Dominguez gets the loss in this game because the game kind of slipped away initially when Seranthony Dominguez entered the game. He pitched .1 innings, gave up 2 hits, 3 runs, a walk, and a 19 pitch count. So Seranthony Dominguez gave this lead up. We were up 2-0. Then it was 2-1 after Cade. We were up 2-1 after Cade Povich left this game, and then Seranthony Dominguez kind of made this, gave them the lead. Then Gregory Soto, .2 innings, gave up 2 hits and 2 runs. So all of a sudden, Seranthony Dominguez and Gregory Soto gives up 5 runs combined between the two. And then all of a sudden the game kind of looks over. You at that point you kind of say, okay, it's a 4-run game. We're really not going to come back from this, which we didn't. We didn't actually end up coming back from it, obviously. But Cieno Perez comes into the game, and this is where the nail really got hit on its head. Cieno Perez comes into the game. He gives up 4 hits, 2 walks, 5 runs, and a homer in 34 pitches in just an inning. Cieno Perez continues to be horrible for the Orioles. He's been horrible all season for this team. Anthony Dominguez hasn't been great for this team either, and same thing with Yunier Cano. So the bullpen was something about this team that I was really confident in. I've said it before a lot early on in this show, in the earlier episodes when I was kind of looking at this team as a whole. The bullpen was actually the thing. The bullpen and the offense were the two things that I was least worried about with this team. Is obviously the starting pitching, but today the starting pitching did great, and the bullpen was an absolute disaster. Gregory Soto, Anthony Dominguez, Cieno Perez completely gave this game away. And then after the 8th inning, after the 7th inning when Cieno Perez left in the 7th inning, we kind of just punted the game. We were down 11-3 going into the 8th inning. Not 11-3. We were down 11-3 going into the 8th inning. And Emmanuel Rivera got to pitch in the 8th inning. He gave up 8 runs, 8 hits, 8 runs. Well, sorry, this was actually one combined inning. They the Red Sox ended up scoring 13 runs in the 8th inning combined. So it was absolutely ridiculous. But Emmanuel Rivera comes into the game. It was kind of funny at some point watching, just because it's just ridiculous how insane this is. But Emmanuel Rivera comes into the game. One inning, gives up 8 hits, 8 runs, 2 walks, and a homer. That home run was to Rafael Devers in a grand slam. A 45 pitch count in 1 inning for our position player pitcher. And Emmanuel Rivera on the season has a 72 ERA, which is just crazy. Obviously, it's insane to see that number. But again, obviously, the pitching was horrible. Cade Povich did great, and his team kind of let him down. He left the game after 5 innings, only giving up 1 run, and then the bullpen gives up 18 runs of the 19 total runs scored in this game. So it was an absolute disaster. I would have loved to see what was going on in the dugout while they were waiting to see the status of Game 2. Obviously, there is no Game 2 because that game got postponed, and now we're playing a doubleheader tomorrow. And I don't know what the rain and the weather looks like in Boston for tomorrow, but we'll see if the doubleheader even happens tomorrow, because the game on Thursday got postponed to today, so there was supposed to be a doubleheader today, and then the second game of the doubleheader today got moved to tomorrow, and then we'll see what happens tomorrow. So very interesting schedule for the Orioles, obviously, with all of these doubleheaders and postponements and all this stuff. And they were able to actually get a rest day yesterday, but obviously it didn't matter. I mean, the thing with this game, which is so odd, was this game was actually going pretty normal for the first 6 innings of the game. The Red Sox had that big 5-run inning in the sixth, but to give them the lead. But this game was still winnable even at that point, and then the 8th inning they scored 13 runs. But if a team scores 13 runs in 1 inning, it doesn't even make any sense. But what happened. Obviously, this is the Orioles' luck. This is the Baltimore Orioles. We've seen this before. We've lost 24-2 already this season, so we've seen stuff like this happen before. I would have really liked to see the Orioles play another game today. Actually, no, I wouldn't have liked to see the Orioles play another game today, because we were already taxed with our bullpen. I think the vibes were already at an all-time low. So if you think about it, this doubleheader being canceled today and moved to tomorrow was probably the best thing that could have happened for this team, so they can kind of have a mental reset after losing by 14 runs. So obviously today was a disaster for the Orioles. They moved They moved back to being 17 games below 500. They're 16-33 on the season. If we go and we look at the games coming up, obviously we have the doubleheader tomorrow with the Orioles, and we actually don't know who's pitching for us in the first game, and neither does the Red Sox, because obviously they probably weren't expecting this. But I think from some reports that I saw earlier, I think that there is a chance that Trevor Rogers is going to be pitching in this game for the Orioles. I'm not sure how true that is. I know that he did get called up as the 17th man or the 27th man, so we'll see what happens with that. We'll see if he pitches in tomorrow's game, in either of the games tomorrow. Obviously, Trevor Rogers is horrible. A few years ago he had a really good year, I think in 2022, and that's kind of his peak. I think he had a below 3 ERA in 2022. He did fantastic that year. But ever since then, and even before that, he's just dealt with so many injuries. And I think he only played 5 games for the Orioles when we traded for him last season. He did horrible in all of his starts. Goes to AAA for rehab starts. He does horrible in AAA. He's doing horrible in literally every single start that he has playing, pitching and throwing a ball. So, obviously, if he does come back to the Orioles, we'll see what happens. I'm not really expecting him to do good until he shows me that he can do good, but we'll see what happens with that. The game tomorrow is at noon for the Orioles. I think the games are tomorrow. I think the games are at noon. And what's the game tomorrow? Noon and then 5:30, which is the 5:30 game is actually on Fox on FS1. So, everyone in the world is going to be able to see us probably get our ass kicked in that game because obviously this is the Orioles and you know what happens with that. But in the second game tomorrow, the one that's on FS1 and the one that is the night game for tomorrow, we do have Zach Eflin pitching, which is obviously very, good to see. Obviously, Zach Eflin in his last outing had one of the worst games of his entire career and by far the worst game in an Orioles uniform. So hopefully Zach can do better and not do nearly as bad as he did his last outing. Hopefully he can just kind of hold it together, do good, and get another good start going and kind of get back on track after that last bad outing. And then we'll see who's pitching for us tomorrow. The Red Sox don't even know who's pitching for them either, so it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be very interesting tomorrow. Hopefully the Orioles can go and win both those games, obviously, because at that point that really feels like the only thing that can happen that can make Orioles fans happy is that we can go out and win both games. But we'll see what happens with that. The Orioles are already down 1-0 in this 4-game series, so they would have to, win these next 2 and win the game on Sunday to win this series. And we'll see what happens with that. Obviously, with what happened today, there's a lot of doubts that we could even do that. But at the end of the day, we will see what happens. But thank you guys so much again for tuning into and listening to this episode of Birds of a Feather. I appreciate you guys so much. I love all of you guys. I love all the support that I've gotten throughout this show. This is episode 48. So, we're almost at 50 episodes of the show. Obviously, there's still a ton of stuff to talk about in the future. Obviously, every single Orioles game that goes on, which there is still over 100 games left this season, plus all of the the Ravens training camp and OTAs once that starts up, and then preseason, and then obviously the regular season. So, obviously, as an Orioles fan, all Orioles fans who are also Ravens fans are kind of sitting here saying, can't wait for football season because the Orioles have been pretty hard to watch this year. But obviously, we still do love this team to death. But again, thank you guys so much for tuning into this show. If you like it, make sure to subscribe on YouTube, follow up on Spotify. Make sure to click the link in the bio of either of them to see my Twitter and Instagram. Make sure to follow those as well. I appreciate all the support. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'm either going to do one episode tomorrow night covering both Orioles games, or I'm going to do 2 episodes tomorrow covering each one. So we'll see what happens with that. I'm probably going to do 2 episodes covering each one, but either way, there's going to be an episode out, at least one episode out tomorrow covering this team. Obviously, this is your daily Baltimore sports podcast. My name is Nathan Stroud, and I appreciate you guys so much again, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Y'all have a great rest of y'all's day. Peace out.